on. Great. Hi. My name is Jerry Luke, and this is Luke's World. And I want to thank you for listening. Normally you can hear us on WHCR-FM in New York, 90.3, the voice of Harlem, every Friday between the hours of 2 and 3:30. Number to call is 1-212-650-6903. Today we come to you through the auspices of LSMFT Productions, Leo Farley, our director, and as always, we come to you from the Mark Symczak studio here in New York City. I want to thank you again for listening. We got a couple of things to talk about. I don't know why Leo decided to take me playing, but I guess I had a hand in that too, so I can't really complain. The Pope is in New York. He had some interesting things to say in Washington. He had some interesting things to say in New York and in Philadelphia. And on a lot of issues, I'm really with him. On some issues, I'm really not. But his heart is in the right place. I saw that video of him leaving the plane. I think it was in Philly. I don't know if it was Philly or Washington. It must have been in Philly, where he gets out of his car and he embraces a child who is crippled, and his mother is just overwhelmed with joy and grief at the same time. And for him to just come out of the car and do that is a wonderful thing. And he's done it on, as is necessary, not per some script. He goes into prisons. He goes where you would think somebody who is a champion of those who don't have goes, and that's a very nice thing to see. And I think it's a nice thing to see for Americans, particularly because we're just after that buck, no matter what. And so I think he left a lasting impression, and I think it's gonna somehow impact the elections too, because you got some clowns running for office who immediately attacked him, and I think a lot of those people, a lot of Republicans are religious, and I mean religious in a good way, in a non-exclusionary way. So we'll see how that develops. And just one more thing on the elections. Frank Rich came up with something really interesting about Trump, and the deal is that Trump doesn't stick to a script. I don't want to compare Trump and the Pope. That's a kind of interesting comparison, but Trump doesn't stick to a script, and what he's doing is you begin to see how all the candidates for office, regardless of whether they're Democrat or Republican, speak on a script, and if they go off script, you go off script and they don't know what to do. So even though Trump is a serious clown, he's forcing you to look at the candidates in a whole new way, and I think that's really interesting. So going back to the Pope, God, the Pope and Trump in the same word, in the same sentences, only I could do that. It's completely uncanny. But we wish the Pope well, and he should do this once a year. Actually, that would be a really good thing. It would be a wake-up call to us. So let's move on. We'll go from one winner to the next. At the beginning of the year, I had a friend of mine call me, who's a columnist for one of the airline magazines. Justin Goldman called me. I'm going to send this out to him too. Big shout out. He's as an editor for, I think, one of the United Airlines inline magazines. We talked about who was going to win, and I forget what his picks were. Mine were the Mets, and then I pulled Baltimore out of a hat. Well, at least I was half right, and I'm thrilled that I was. What an interesting year. I don't want to belabor it because you've probably read about it. If you're a Met fan, you've read about it in the newspapers, and I can go over all this stuff, but I don't want to. The only thing my angle of it is Omar Minaya, and I took some notes right before the show started, and I just want to let you know what Omar did and why he didn't deserve to be fired, and why you can't turn a team around overnight. You might be able to turn a team around, when you get a quarterback or a decent or a Lawrence Taylor or a Deion Sanders, but you're not going to turn a baseball team around on one person. Although that sort of belies the fact of UNS Cespedes. So take that with a grain of salt. But some of the people that these are most of the people that he brought on board. Lucas Duda, Daniel Murphy, Ruben Tejada, Wilmer Flores, Juan Lagares among the hitters. Now, I'm going to go through the list. I'm going to tell you something else about this too. Matt Harvey he brought on, Jacob DeGrom, Matz, Neese, Familia, Hansel Robles, and Bobby Parnell. So we'll leave that and we'll go to Anderson in a minute. But understand that this stuff didn't happen overnight. It took, from the time Lucas Duda was signed, it took 4 years for him to develop into the hitter he is today. Streaky as it is, but into a hitter. Ruben Tejada, 5 years it took. Lagares, 7 years. And Hansel Robles, he was signed in 2009. So it's 15, 96 is 50, we make that 6 years. So that's what it takes to turn a team around. And if you will recall, once the Mets blew it in 06 and 07, the next few years were terrible. I mean, they fired Willie Randolph. Why would you fire Willie Randolph? The team sucked. So what would you think he would do? What do you think he would do that the next guy didn't do? So for the next few years, the team was terrible. Last year, at the end of last year, if you were following the Mets, and unfortunately I was, you could tell something was up because the pitching was excellent. It was always a thrill to see that these guys would go 6, 7 innings and maybe give up a run or two at the most, and then there was no hitting. So, but you knew something was up, and it turns out that Anderson, their general manager, finally got off his butt and before trade time this year picked up some great players. Uribe, Kelly Johnson, Addison Reed, a terrific reliever, Tyler Clippard, who's like, you hold your guts in your hand every time you watch him pitch, but he gets everybody out. And of course, Cespedes, who's like a Cuban dream. He got hot for a while. Everything, including home plate, just about. He hit out into the out. He hit out for a home run. So it just goes to show that just like you have to. Here's the analogy coming. Just as you have to let yeast grow, you also have to be able to let your people make decisions and watch how their decisions turn out. And things aren't going to happen overnight. We all think here in the U.S., you hit a button and you turn in a winner. You don't. The Giants haven't been doing well over the last couple of years. The Jets haven't been doing well over a couple of years, but it looks promising now. How much time do we have, dear Doc? We're pretty good. All right, so that's enough on the Mets. I just wanted to throw this in. I don't know if I talked about this last time, and this is for maybe for adults and maybe for kids who are watching this from time to time. When you come up and you first decide to watch sports and get involved in a team, you all of a sudden have heroes and you're following these folks. Whether it's, I think I may have, I'll say it again, I don't care. Whether it's hockey or basketball or baseball. And as a child, you think that these players are with you forever. Mickey Mantle's going to be with you forever. All those great Knicks were going to be with you forever. But it's not true. They get old, and then they're replaced, and then they're new guys. And it would be, if you're a parent and you have young kids growing up, please appraise them of that so they don't think that whatever they see in front of them is it forever, and then it's a continuum. And that year after year, the older players go, the new players come up, and you know what happens? People die. That's another thing that happens. So it's not, sports isn't just this isolated thing where you watch it for a couple of years and then nothing happens and your heroes go on forever. So that's my statement on that. So teach your children well. It was a good night last night in New York, almost. I went out to that Pier 1 underneath the West Side Highway in Manhattan, and there was a whole bunch of people checking out the moon, looking for looking for the red moon, and we were doing really well until the fog came in and just killed us. But for a time, you could see you could see the moon in its entirety, and then you saw it going to getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and then you could see a whole red circle, the outline of a red circle, and it was at that point that the fog came in, and we couldn't see it. And it was really kind of nice to see that people are gathered, New Yorkers are gathered, I got you, New Yorkers are gathered on this pier. There are people with their dogs, people bring out food, and nobody was running around crazy riding their bikes, which they want to do, which is illegal there. But that was kind of neat to see. Unfortunately, we couldn't see the moon from there. And then another spot, I think it's the, I don't know, it's not really the tomb of, it's a soldiers and sailors monument. It's around 88th Street, 87th Street. There are a whole bunch of people over there also looking to see the red moon, although I don't know how they would have seen it from there, but, you know, power to them for seeing it. Anyway, I want to thank you again for tuning in. My name is Jerry Luke. Normally, again, you can hear me on WHCR-FM in New York, 90.3, the voice of Harlem, every Friday between the hours of 2 and 3:30. And we're at the 10-minute line, and Leo's getting antsy. But I want to appraise you of one more thing. We'll see you on the radio. You want to hear this? Okay, we can do this for a minute. All right. I can mess this up. That's going to be it. Have a good one.